a Pye Stereophonic Black Box. I fixed these before and put a video up about it. This one has got the Garrard 210 deck. I've cleaned it. It was filthy. I've cleaned it, re-lubricated it, and everything. Got everything running nice. I've just got waiting for a stylus to fit in the head. It's a stereo. This is all working good. Cleaned up all the fabric with cleaner and that, all this vinyl, and just doing the amp. One of these knobs was broken, and someone had squirted some sort of glue onto it to stop it falling off. The glue ran down. They didn't bother to clean it off, so it left this horrible mark. Things people do. Now the amps on these Pye stereos suffer badly from the capacitors all going open circuit normally or short circuit, the high voltage ones. They've all had to be changed. I've had to change loads of components. All the resistors drift out badly for some reason. Compressed carbon resistors. Had to change quite a few of the important ones. Some of them have drifted out, aren't that important. The values depends on where they are in the circuit, so I haven't changed them all. The power resistors that set the current in the push-pull output valves were way out, so I've changed both of them. I've matched up the valves, tested all the valves and matched them in pairs. I had to change a couple, I think. I mean, these power valves do wear out. They're basically like an EL84 plus a triode all in one can, so they run pretty hot. So I've matched all them up. I've changed the capacitors where necessary. Changed a number of the electrolytics, even though they weren't that bad, but I decided to change them anyway. Just a few more things. I have tested it. It's all running and sounding good now, except the on-off switch, which you can't see on the back of one of these controls, is broken. I've got to do something about that, or fit some other on-off switch. Underneath there's a voltage selector that you get to underneath the thing, and it's got one of these old-fashioned voltage selector plugs that go in for 210, 230, 240 sort of volts, but it has the fuse built in. These are used on some other old equipment, and this fuse is blown, but you can't get these fuses. They are so short, little stubby things. I can't find anywhere to buy them. There are some people selling these like about 10 quid each. I'm not going to pay that. But what you can buy are these 1 amp time delay micro fuses, and a pack of 10 costs about £1. And I'm going to solder one across the fuse, because it'll go in. There's enough room. They're tiny, and that'd be cheaper. I'm not going to buy another one of these. Then I'm just waiting for the cartridge to come back, and it's stereo, of course, and try and fix that switch, put it back together again, and these do sound good. They've got some very nice, not very big, but they sound great, these little Goodman's Alnico speakers. The bass isn't fantastic, but the treble and mid-range is really punchy and sounds good. So it's almost finished. I'll do sort of sound, play some records when it's finished. I've soldered on the 1 amp fuse. Just took a few very short time. Very easy to do. Fit 1 amp fuse. It'll fit okay, no problem in there. That pushes back together. And by the way, here are the knobs. These are 3 of these have fallen, or fallen off. They were just resting on it. One was missing until I opened it up, and luckily I found one inside. It'd fallen under the deck, so I've got all 4 now. Just gonna stick them on with some sort of impact adhesive to fix the tops on the knobs. They're very brittle. some sort of very, very hard plastic. But luckily they're all there, so I fixed them as well. Fixing the broken on-off switch that was in there on the back of the pot. What had happened is here's the pot here. I've taken it apart. That goes on there, and this is the switch. It's held on by two rivets in those two holes which I've had to drill out. But what had happened is, you can't see it, but a little bit of this plastic that holds a contact on this mechanism that moves, just up there, had a little rivet in it. The plastic is broken, the rivet had fallen out, and had fallen into this pot and jammed it somehow. They tried to force it round. They broke this switch off, which I found, which they broke it off. This was broken, but I put a new screw in it, and they tried to glue it, and they put glue in it, which they then let run down there and didn't wipe it off, so it caused that ugly stain. And because the switch was broken, they just wired the mains on the back in one together, so it was on all the time. Anyway, this is a 2-pole switch here, and one of them's got that little rivet thing just in there. Still works. So I've taken out all the rivets and things that were jammed up inside these little rivet things, and I can reassemble it, and it just the single pole will still switch it on and off now, and so we can put the live through that. And the neutral can be permanently connected, but I mean it'll switch it on and off, rather than having it on all the time. So you can't buy anything like this anymore. I mean, also while I had it out on the capacitor down there, now I can see the date. It says it says April. It's either 61, 2 or 3. I mean, it's not quite clear. The 6 is clear, but the following... So it's made early 1960s, 61, 2 or 3, because they would have bought these capacitors about the same time that they were in bulk and they were putting it together. So I've just got to reassemble this and rewire the mains while I'm at it. There's only a 2-core mains in here, no earth. It's just a 2-core. So I'll put in a 3-core and earth it as well, which might actually help lower the noise, any noise pickup as well. So that's another, just keep going till it's finished. I've reassembled the switch, which was a bit difficult as the end had been originally was pop riveted in, and I had to drill the pop rivets out to take it apart. And then I had to find some screws in my one of my boxes. I've got loads of little screws that I've kept over the years, something like that, with a small head. I just had to drill it out slightly, the clearance to 2mm, so I get the head in. And actually I had to do 2mm to get the screw thread through, and just the right size to screw into the hole that was in the plate. So it's a matter of finding the right screws. So I screwed them in, and now I've got a connection now on that, on just across those, just across 2 of these connections. The other 2 are the ones that are broken. So at least I can turn it on and off now. And of course, when I had to just push those locating things back down with something just to hold it all together. So I can put that back in now. It's working. It goes all the way around and it goes off. Can't really do it with one hand. It's there, click. and then it's off now. And click on, if I can turn it, there, click, now it's on. So, put that back in and keep on trying to repair this old equipment from the early 60s. Is it worth it? Just finishing up restoring this Garrard Model 210 record player. It's got to go back into the Pye Stereo record player. Problem with these old Garrard 210s is mainly, besides the grease gets a bit hard, is the idler wheel. They get really quite hard, and it has to rub against the motor that goes around here, and rubs also on the inside of the turntable platter. To drive it, these get quite hard and they will not grip, and so as soon as it tries to operate the mechanism, it just slips on there and it won't do anything. So what I do is I spin these up in the lathe, this lathe over here, and then I sand it until it gets quite hot and starts to smoke, and that normally gets it more flexible, and then it starts to grip. So I've finished this one. I've cleaned it as well, cleaning off. This is a nice white one with a black deck. Normally they're brown. And then the cartridge, this has got a Sonotone 9TA. I cleaned it up and it seems okay. And you can buy a new stylus. This is a diamond one. It says it's for the 8TA, but obviously they fit the 9TA. It's the same. It's not a 78 one, so you can use both sides if they wear out. Just going to put that in. That clips in there, and it's all working now. I just you can turn it on manually. Whoops, that's going round. Everything's working good now. All the controls are working. So I can put that back in, and I've done the same with this one. I've just got to finish, just got to fit the wheel back in and just finish cleaning. They have on these old Garrards, they have this little foam pad there which actually stops the disc. When you switch it off, it pushes on the inside of the platter and stops it spinning, so that's why the disc stopped so quickly. Later on they didn't put that on, so the disc just kept going round and round. So all these mechanism parts, you just make sure that they all work and nothing's seized up. You can clean this old grease off if necessary. And there's a bearing right in the bottom of here. It's a little ball, got about 5 or 6 balls in it, and you need to put a tiny bit of oil on that. You can take the shaft out. There's 2 screws underneath. You have to undo, and you can pull this out and get at the bearing, and the balls normally fall out and you have to find them inside. So I'm going to put that back into the Pye, and I finished doing the amplifier in it, and hopefully it's going to sound okay. Setting the tracking weight of the Sonotone 80, I think I said 90 earlier, 80. I've put the new stylus in, and on the back here is the knurled knob, a knurl which you turn and pushes this in and out. It's got a spring that runs down inside, and you can fit the end of that spring on different notches for different strengths. Anyway, I had to fit that on the maximum lift spring strength to get this on, because I think it's quite lightweight, that cartridge. Anyway, I've got this digital scale, and if we just put that on there, you can see it's reading 4.3 grams now. It's quite high, but I think this 8T in this arm needs to run about 4 grams. We'll see how it gets on. So that's quite high off the deck, but it's about, if you're stacking a load of records on, I'll check it again when it's lower in a second. I do have this very old gauge, Garrard gauge, where you just put it on there, in that. It's actually a bit difficult to do with one hand, but oops, let's move it back a bit. It rests in that little cup or little dish there, and then you push it down here until that lever balances in the middle, which is there, and then you read it off the scale. Well, according to this, it's about 5 grams. When it's fully down, so not too bad. This goes right up to 15 grams. So in the very old days, 78s and that, you'd be tracking over 10, maybe up to 15 grams of pressure to keep it on the record. Anyway, so that's good. It's tracking about 5, which sounds a bit heavy these days. If I can lighten it up, I will. You can see the stylus. This has got a cutout in the front. Some of them won't cut out. Actually, it's good. You can actually see the stylus. So when you're putting it on the record, it's better when it's covered up. You can't see exactly. So, and you can also make sure that the stylus hasn't jumped out of the little V that it fits in. If you're a bit rough with it, you can knock it out that V. It's on the stylus is on the little rubber mount. Okay, I'll keep trying with the record next, I think. By the way, I had to check the connections. I managed to get this off the web service of how to get those connections in the back of here where it plugs in. So I redrew it for the socket and check the connections off the back of the cartridge for left and right to make sure you get the earth left and right and the earth, because this 4-pin plug's a bit weird how it's wired up. Then I traced it through to the connections which are underneath on the little connection block underneath. Okay, so see if I can get some sound out of it. By the way, this head can be rotated slightly left and right if the cartridge isn't dead vertical. There's a little screw underneath here which you can loosen, and you can twist it and then retighten it, but it actually seems to be pretty square at the moment, which is good. And some of these cheap replacement styluses I've seen, I don't know whether they're made, the later ones, the actual diamond or whatever it is, sometimes isn't vertical where it's been fixed in. Sometimes they're fixed at an angle and very badly made, probably cheap, some Chinese or something. So you do have to watch that, because even though you put it in dead straight, you find sometimes a diamond is not even vertical with the record deck. I wouldn't use one of them. I'd send it back or something. But yeah, some of the new stuff's badly made. Testing the Garrard 210 before I put it back in the cabinet. I've just showing you the operation LP on the auto, and this arm will determine where the set down point is. So put it on 33, and it's plugged into just very long wire to my hi-fi. Here we go. The arm comes across, and it's going to drop it. Bang. And there it goes. Can't play the song too long because YouTube will pull it. So that's working. Now when you hit the reject button, it bit of load slows it slightly. Now the arm comes across and determines there's no record on it now, and because of that it will turn off. So that's a safety feature. If there was another record, it would determine where the set down point would be. And then you've got the arm lock here. If you lock the arm so it can't come off, and that is automatically released when you turn it on. And if I pull that over there and hold it, so it will set down. So that's good. Let's just reject it again. Okay, so that's working. I think I'll put it back into the cabinet and connect it up and finish it off in the cabinet now. Well, I've finished installing the Garrard deck back in the Pye. I've fully overhauled the amp, replacing resistors, capacitors, matching up the valves, redoing all the valve sockets because they get loose on these. Deck's playing really good. Just got to put the knobs back on and the tops back on these, and put the legs back on it so it can stand on the floor. So everything's looking really good. It sounds very good too. It goes really loud, very loud indeed.
You read those books where luxury comes as a guest to take a slave.
Goes really loud. Treble bass and balance controls. Just reject the disc. All the auto works, and it will switch off with the arm. No, determines there's no record on it now, so it'll switch off. It's a bit of a clunk. Dink. I think there's a little rubber insert stops that clunk sound, but that's no biggie. So I've just got to put the top back on, and I think it's about the best sound I can get out of it. The Pye Stereophonic Black Box, I've finished it now. I'm just going to test it with some old 45s. I've just got it on this trolley so I can move it around, but it's got the Darnset Sputnik ended legs there, and inside you've got the Garrard 210, nice white version of the 210. Got a new diamond tip in it, 8T pickup, and I've stacked a load of old 45s in just to show it operating. Set it to 45. This is tells it what size the records are. So let's just play the first one. got treble. This is the on-off, and the treble. If you turn it clockwise, it actually cuts the treble. So fully anti-clockwise is maximum treble. And then the bass, clockwise is maximum bass, and anti-clockwise is less bass. Doesn't have a huge amount of effect, the bass. And then you've got the balance for the left hand and the right hand speaker. It doesn't cut the sound totally off from left and right, changes by about 50%. So put it back to about the middle. The volume goes very loud. If you close the lid, you get a little more bass. Show the next disc falling down. So it will comes up, and the next disc will fall, comes over. I'll just play a few bars, then I'll reject it. Reject. You go to the next one, see if you can recognize it. Go to the next one. Reject that for YouTube. Tell me I can't use it.
You broke my heart, 'cause I couldn't dance. You didn't even want me around. But now I'm back to let you know that I can really shake 'em down.
And another one. And then we do the final one. We reject the last one, and it should work out that the arm comes in. It means there's no more records. It should turn up, which it does. and it's got a little felt pad in there that stops the disc going round. So that's the 45s, and then I'll just show you an LP working as well. Okay, an LP, best of the Swinging Blue Jeans, just play a few bars before you recognise it. The detection arm shows it's a big LP. I've got it on loaded at the top. Set to 33 RPM obviously. Start it up. There it goes. And it sets it down at the start. And I just play a few bars.
Rolling to your side.
Then we can reject.
For your kiss. Strip the
Watch the arm come in, no more records to drop. I don't know who would load it up with LPs, but you can apparently. And switch it off. Okay, so that's fully working now, all ready to go.